Jake Morrison stood in the great hall of the Galactic Council. His boots made small sounds on the crystal floor as he walked toward the center of the room. Around him sat beings from every corner of the galaxy. Some had multiple eyes that glowed in the dark. Others had skin that looked like metal or stone. A few floated in the air without touching the ground at all. The human captain looked ordinary compared to all these alien creatures. He was tall, but not very tall. His hair was brown and starting to turn gray at the sides. His uniform was clean, but showed signs of many battles. There were small tears that had been fixed and patches where different colored fabric had been sewn on. His face was tired, and his eyes held the weight of too many hard choices. The Void War had ended just 3 weeks ago. It was a war that almost destroyed everything. Strange creatures from another dimension had come through tears in space itself. They fed on fear and pain and turned whole planets into empty wastelands. Every species in the galaxy had tried to fight them, but nothing worked. The creatures seemed to grow stronger with each battle, and the humans had joined the fight. Nobody expected much from them. Humans were new to space travel. They had no great weapons or magical powers like the other races. Most aliens thought humans were just another weak species that would be destroyed quickly. But Jake Morrison had done something nobody thought was possible. He had found a way to make the void creatures go away. The details were secret, but the result was clear. The tears in space had closed, and the creatures had gone back to their own dimension. The galaxy was safe again. Now the Galactic Council was meeting to honor the ancient laws of war. When someone saved the galaxy, they could ask for any reward they wanted. It was an old tradition that went back thousands of years. Jake could ask for money or weapons or entire star systems. He could ask to rule over other species or to have access to their most advanced technology. The Hive Queen of the Zirathi was the leader of the council this year. She looked like a giant insect with silver skin and eyes like black diamonds. When she spoke, her voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. She did not like humans very much and made no effort to hide this fact. "Human Morrison," she said, in a voice that echoed through the hall, "your people have done something unexpected. You have helped us win a war that we thought was lost. The council will honor the old laws. You may ask for any reward that is reasonable. Choose wisely, because you will only get one chance." Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces watching him. Some looked curious about what he would choose. Others seemed annoyed that a human was getting such an honor. A few looked worried about what he might ask for. Near the front of the room sat the royal families from the most powerful species in the galaxy. Princess Zara of the Corvan Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall. Her skin was like living crystal that glowed with inner light. Everyone knew she could create energy blasts powerful enough to destroy mountains. Her father ruled over 200 worlds and commanded fleets of warships. Next to her sat Princess Lyra from the Nexus Federation. She had metal implants covering half her head that connected directly to her brain. She could hack into any computer system in seconds and control machines with just her thoughts. Her people had technology so advanced that other species could barely understand how it worked. Princess Nova of the Vanguard collective wore armor that had been damaged in countless battles. She had scars on her face and arms from fighting in the front lines of many wars. Her people were known as the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They could fight for days without rest and never showed fear in battle. But Jake was not looking at any of these powerful princesses. His eyes had found someone else entirely. In a corner of the room where the less important royalty sat was a small figure that most people barely noticed. Princess Elena of the Solari people was tiny compared to the others. She was barely 5 feet tall, and her skin was pale blue like morning sky. Her large violet eyes looked nervous, and she kept her hands folded in her lap. The Solari were known throughout the galaxy as the weakest race. They had no armies or weapons. Their technology was basic, and their home world had no valuable resources. The Solari were pacifists who spent most of their time in meditation and simple farming. Most other species ignored them completely because they had nothing to offer. Princess Elena was considered weak even by Solari standards. She had no special talents and could not even perform basic meditation properly according to her own people. Jake stared at her for a long moment. She seemed to sense his gaze and looked up at him with surprise. Their eyes met across the room, and he saw something there that the others had missed. There was intelligence in those violet eyes, and a sadness that spoke of understanding things that others could not see. "I choose Princess Elena of the Solari," Jake announced in a clear voice that carried across the entire hall. The reaction was immediate and loud. Alien voices rose in confusion and anger. The Hive Queen's mandibles clicked rapidly, which was a sign of extreme irritation. Princess Zara laughed out loud, as if Jake had made a joke. Princess Lyra's implants flashed as she tried to scan Jake's brain to see if he had been damaged in the war. "This must be some kind of mistake," buzzed the Hive Queen. "The Solari have nothing to offer. Their princess has no dowry and no useful skills. Their home world is worthless. Surely you mean to choose someone else." Princess Elena looked as shocked as everyone else. Her pale face had gone even paler, and she gripped the arms of her chair tightly. She clearly could not understand why anyone would choose her over the powerful princesses who sat nearby. But Jake did not change his mind. He stood straight and looked directly at the Hive Queen. "My choice is final. I choose Princess Elena of the Solari people." The hall erupted in more voices of protest and confusion. But the ancient laws were clear. Jake had made his choice, and it had to be honored. The Hive Queen clicked her mandibles one more time, and then nodded slowly. "So be it," she said in a voice that showed how much she disapproved. "The bonding ceremony will take place in 7 days at the neutral station. May the ancestors help us all understand this strange human logic." As the council meeting ended and beings began to file out of the hall, Jake caught Princess Elena's eye one more time. She was still staring at him with confusion and fear. He smiled slightly and nodded to her before turning to leave. Nobody in that room understood why Jake Morrison had made such a seemingly foolish choice. But they would learn soon enough that the quiet human captain never did anything without a very good reason. The journey to the neutral station took 5 days in Jake's small ship. Princess Elena sat quietly in the passenger area for most of the trip. She seemed afraid to speak or move too much. Jake could see her reflection in the window of the cockpit. She spent hours staring out at the stars with a confused expression on her face. On the 3rd day, she finally found the courage to ask the question that had been bothering her since the council meeting. Jake was checking the navigation systems when he heard her soft voice behind him. "Captain Morrison," she said in careful English. Her accent made the words sound musical, but unsure. "Why did you choose me? Even my own people think I am weak and useless. I cannot do the things that other Solari nobles can do. I cannot even meditate properly like my sisters." Jake turned in his chair to look at her. She was standing in the doorway between the cockpit and the main cabin. Her violet eyes were full of genuine confusion and something that looked like pain. She clearly believed what her people had told her about being weak and worthless. "What do you know about the final battle of the Void War?" Jake asked instead of answering her question directly. Elena looked surprised by the change of topic. She thought for a moment before responding. "Only what was announced to all the worlds. You somehow convinced the void entities to go back to their own dimension and seal the portals behind them. But all the details were marked as classified. No one knows exactly what happened during those final hours. Jake nodded slowly. The details were classified because the truth would scare every living being in this galaxy. The council decided that some things are too dangerous for people to know. Elena moved closer and sat down in the co-pilot seat. Her curiosity was stronger than her fear now. What do you mean too dangerous? The void entities did not retreat because of human weapons or clever battle plans, Jake said in a quiet voice. Our ships were no match for theirs. Our technology was basic compared to what other species had already tried and failed with. The creatures had defeated fleets from the Corvin Empire and the Vanguard Collective. They had destroyed planets protected by Nexus Federation shields. He paused and looked out at the stars rushing past the ship. They retreated because they encountered something that terrified them more than anything they had faced in thousands of years of conquering other dimensions. Elena leaned forward in her seat. What could scare creatures like that? They seemed to have no fear at all. They encountered human emotion, Jake continued. But not just any human emotion. They encountered human feelings of love and hope and sacrifice that had been amplified and broadcast across subspace by a Solari consciousness. Princess Elena's face went pale. Her hands began to shake slightly. That is impossible. Solari can barely manage simple telepathic communication between family members. We certainly cannot broadcast thoughts across space. Most Solari cannot, Jake agreed. But you are not most Solari, are you, Elena? The princess stared at him in shock. I do not understand what you are saying. Jake activated a holographic display that showed energy readings and wave patterns. The data looked like a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with different colored lines flowing between star systems. These are psychic emanation readings from the final battle, he explained. Every major military force in the galaxy was monitoring subspace communication during the fighting. When the void entities began their retreat, we traced the energy patterns back to their source. The hologram zoomed in on a small blue star system at the edge of known space. The epicenter was not my command ship. It was not any human vessel or space station. The source of the energy that drove away the void creatures was traced back to one specific location on the Solari homeworld. Elena stared at the display as it showed her home planet. A bright white dot pulsed in the location where the royal palace stood. That cannot be right. There is nothing special about the palace, just meditation gardens and libraries. The readings were very specific, Jake said. They pointed to the meditation chambers in the east wing of the palace. The chambers that you use every day for your private meditation sessions. But my meditations are failures, Elena protested. The elders have told me so many times. I cannot achieve even basic mental clarity. My mind wanders constantly, and I can never focus properly. Jake smiled for the first time since their conversation began. Your meditations were not failures. Elena, you were just trying to do the wrong thing. While other Solari focused their minds inward to find peace and clarity, you were instinctively reaching outward. What do you mean, reaching outward? Your consciousness was touching other minds across the galaxy, Jake explained. You were feeling their emotions and experiences without even realizing it. When you sat in meditation, you are not finding inner peace. You were connecting with billions of other beings and sharing their joys and sorrows. Elena shook her head in denial. That is not possible. I would have known if I was doing something like that. Would you? Jake asked gently. Tell me about your dreams, Elena. Tell me about the strange feelings you get sometimes when you are alone. The princess was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Sometimes I dream about places I have never been. I see worlds with different colored skies and feel emotions that do not belong to me. I wake up crying or laughing, and I do not know why. And during your meditation sessions, I feel connected to something larger than myself. But the elders said that was my imagination running wild. They said I needed to focus only on my own thoughts and push everything else away. Jake nodded. The elders were teaching you standard Solari meditation techniques. But you were already beyond that level. You had developed abilities that no Solari had ever shown before. You are saying that my failed meditations were actually some kind of psychic phenomenon. The most powerful psychic phenomenon ever recorded in galactic history, Jake confirmed. When the void entities made contact with human military forces, they expected to encounter fear and despair like they had found on every other world they conquered. Instead, they found something completely different. Elena was listening intently now. Her fear was being replaced by fascination. They encountered human determination and courage, Jake continued. But more than that, they encountered human love for family and friends. They felt our willingness to sacrifice ourselves for others and our hope for a better future. These emotions were being amplified through your psychic abilities and broadcast across multiple dimensions, and that frightened them. It did more than frighten them. It poisoned them. The void creatures feed on negative emotions like fear and pain and hatred. Positive emotions like love and hope are toxic to their very existence. When they encountered these feelings amplified and focused through your consciousness, it was like drinking acid. Elena sat back in her chair and stared at the holographic display. You are telling me that I somehow helped win the war without even knowing it. The war could not have been won without you, Jake said seriously. The void entities sealed the portals not to keep us out, but to protect themselves from your influence reaching their home dimension. For the first time since Jake had met her, Princess Elena smiled. It was a small, uncertain smile, but it changed her entire face. If this is true, then why did the council not know about it? Why did they not honor me instead of you? Jake's expression became serious again. Because Elena, if the Galactic Council knew about your abilities, they would either try to turn you into a weapon, or they would eliminate you as a threat to their power. Right now, you are just a weak princess from an unimportant world. That is the only thing keeping you safe. The smile faded from Elena's face as she understood the danger she was in. And you chose me to protect me from them. I chose you because there are worse things coming, Jake said quietly. The Void War was just the beginning. Our intelligence sources suggest that there are entities in dark space that make the void creatures look like children playing with toys. When they arrive, the galaxy will need every advantage it can get. Princess Elena looked out at the stars again, but this time her expression was thoughtful rather than confused. And you believe that my abilities could help fight these new threats. I believe that your abilities combined with human understanding of emotion and sacrifice might be the only thing that can save us all. Elena did not sleep well that night. She lay in the small cabin bed staring at the ceiling while Jake's words repeated in her mind. Everything she had believed about herself was wrong. The meditation sessions that had made her feel like a failure were actually something extraordinary. The strange dreams and feelings that the elders had told her to ignore were signs of abilities that no other Solari possessed. She got up early and found Jake in the main cabin drinking coffee and studying data files on his portable screen. He looked up when she entered and gestured to the chair across from him. I have been thinking about what you told me, Elena said as she sat down. If I really have these psychic abilities, then why can I not control them? Why do I not know? And I am using them. Jake saved his work and closed the screen. Most psychic abilities develop slowly over time. The person learns to recognize when they are using their power and how to direct it. But your abilities developed without any training or guidance. You have been using them unconsciously since you were very young. How do you know so much about psychic powers? Humans are not supposed to have any telepathic abilities at all. Most humans do not, Jake agreed. But a few of us have minor empathic talents. We can sense emotions in other people, or sometimes predict what they are going to do. It is nothing compared to what you can do, but it helps me understand how these abilities work. Elena was quiet for a moment. Show me the data from the final battle again. I want to understand exactly what happened. Jake reactivated the holographic display and pulled up the energy readings from 3 weeks ago. This is the moment when our fleets first engaged the void entities near the Centauri system. You can see the normal patterns of ship communications and weapon fire. The display showed colored lines moving between points of light that represented ships and space stations. Everything looked chaotic, but Elena could see patterns in the movement. Here is where things began to change, Jake said as he advanced. The timeline. The void creatures started their usual attack pattern. They were trying to create fear and panic among our forces to weaken our defenses. But something went wrong with their plan. Something went very right with our plan, Jake corrected. About 6 hours into the battle, our sensors detected this. A new pattern appeared in the hologram. It looked like waves of golden light flowing outward from a distant point and connecting with every human ship in the battle area. The waves pulsed in a steady rhythm like a giant heartbeat. What am I looking at? Elena asked. Amplified human emotion being broadcast across subspace. The source point was your meditation chamber on the Solari homeworld. The receiving points were the minds of every human in our fleet. Elena studied the pattern carefully. It looks like a web connecting all the ships together. That is exactly what it was. Your abilities were creating a psychic link between all our people. When one person felt courage or determination, it was shared with everyone else. When someone thought about the family they were trying to protect, those feelings were broadcast to the entire fleet. And the void creatures could sense this too. Jake nodded grimly. They could not only sense it, they were forced to experience it. Imagine being a creature that feeds on fear and pain, suddenly being flooded with love and hope and self-sacrifice. It was like being burned by invisible fire. A hologram showed the void creatures beginning to retreat. Their ships moved in erratic patterns, as if they were trying to escape from something they could not see. This is the moment they started opening portals back to their home dimension, Jake explained. But watch what happens next. The golden waves from Elena's location suddenly intensified. Instead of just connecting the human ships, they began reaching out toward the retreating void entities. I was trying to follow them, Elena whispered as she watched the display. Even though I did not know what I was doing, I could sense their pain, and I wanted to understand it. Your empathic abilities reached across dimensional barriers, Jake said with amazement in his voice. You actually made contact with the creatures in their home dimension. For a few seconds, you were sharing human emotions with beings that had never experienced anything except negative feelings. The hologram showed the portals snapping shut one by one as the void creatures fled in terror. The golden waves continued to pulse for several more minutes before finally fading away. They sealed the portals to protect themselves from me, Elena said in a voice full of wonder. A creature that I have never seen was so afraid of my feelings that it cut itself off from our entire dimension. They are probably still trying to understand what happened. In all their conquests across multiple dimensions, they had never encountered concentrated positive emotion. It was completely outside their experience. Elena stood up and walked to the small viewport to look out at the stars. You said there are worse things coming. Things that make the void creatures look weak. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected signals from the edge of the galaxy. Something is moving toward us from the space between galaxies. The energy signatures are unlike anything we have seen before. And you think my abilities could help fight them too? Jake joined her at the viewport. I think your abilities are still developing. What happened during the Void War might have been just the beginning of what you can do. How can I learn to control something that I do not even understand? Elena asked. That is why we are going to Earth after the bonding ceremony. I have arranged for you to work with some of our best scientists and the few humans who have psychic abilities of their own. Elena turned to face him. You have been planning this since before you chose me at the council meeting. I have been planning this since we first detected your psychic emanations 3 weeks ago. The moment our sensors traced those energy patterns back to your meditation chamber, I knew you were the key to defending the galaxy. But you chose to approach this through marriage, rather than simply asking for my help. Why? Jake was quiet for a moment as he considered how to explain. Because, Elena, if I had simply told the Galactic Council about your abilities, they would have taken you away from your home and tried to turn you into a weapon. They would have put you in a laboratory and run experiments on you until they understood how your powers work. And then they would have tried to create more people like me. Or they would have decided you were too dangerous to live. There are species in the galaxy that would kill you rather than risk having their minds touched by alien thoughts. Elena nodded slowly. So the marriage bond makes me a human citizen. It gives me protection under your laws. It does more than that. It makes you part of a family. Humans do not abandon their family members, even when things become difficult or dangerous. Is that what I am to you? A family member that needs protection? Jake met her eyes directly. You are a person with extraordinary abilities, who deserves the chance to understand what you can do and choose how to use that power. The marriage bond ensures that choice remains yours. And if I choose not to help fight these new threats, then we will find another way to defend the galaxy. Your safety and freedom are more important than any military advantage you might provide. Elena smiled again. This time, the smile was stronger and more confident. I think I am beginning to understand why the void creatures were so frightened of human emotions. There is something very powerful about the way your people care for each other. Every species has the capacity for love and sacrifice, Jake said. But humans never learn to hide those feelings or be ashamed of them. We wear our emotions openly, even when it makes us vulnerable. And my abilities can amplify and share those emotions with others. Your abilities can show other species what they have forgotten about themselves. During the battle with the Void, some of the alien commanders reported feeling things they had not experienced since childhood. Compassion for their enemies. Willingness to risk everything for strangers. Hope for a future they might not live to see. Elena was quiet as she thought about the implications. If I can help other people remember how to feel those things, then maybe the new threats will not be able to use fear and hatred against us. Maybe they will encounter a united galaxy instead of a divided one. Maybe they will find billions of beings who have remembered what it means to fight for something instead of just against something. The princes looked out at the stars one more time. When do we reach the neutral station? Tomorrow morning. Are you ready for the bonding ceremony? Elena nodded. I am ready to begin learning what I can really do. The neutral station was exactly what its name suggested. It belonged to no single species and followed no particular cultural traditions. The architecture was simple and functional, with smooth metal walls and basic lighting. There were no decorations or symbols that might favor one race over another. Elena walked through the corridors, beside Jake, feeling nervous about the ceremony that would take place in a few hours. She had never been away from her home world before this journey, and everything seemed strange and foreign to her. The bonding ceremony will be very simple, Jake explained as they approached their quarters. Just some words spoken in front of witnesses and the signing of legal documents. It should only take about 30 minutes. And then I will legally be your wife under human law. And galactic law, too. The marriage bond is recognized by the council as long as both parties consent freely. Elena stopped walking and turned to face him. Jake, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Of course, this marriage arrangement is not real, is it? You do not have romantic feelings for me, and you do not expect me to have such feelings for you. Jake was quiet for a moment as he considered his answer. The legal bond will be real. The commitment to protect and support each other will be real. But you are right that this is not a traditional marriage, based on love between two people. So it is more like a business partnership. It is more like an alliance between two people who share common goals and respect each other. Elena nodded. I thought so. I wanted to make sure I understood the situation correctly. They continued walking until they reached the guest quarters, where Elena would prepare for the ceremony. As she was about to enter her room, she turned back to Jake with another question. What happens after we go to Earth and I learn to control my abilities? What is the long-term plan? Jake leaned against the wall and looked thoughtful. That depends on what we discover about your powers and what threats emerge from deep space. But I can tell you the general idea. Please do. Humans have always been good at building alliances with other species. We find common ground and work together toward shared goals. Your abilities could help us build the strongest alliance in galactic history, by helping other species remember what they are fighting for, instead of just what they are fighting against. Exactly. Right now, most of the galaxy is held together by treaties based on mutual fear or economic necessity. Species cooperate because they have to, not because they want to. Elena understood immediately. But if they could feel real connection and shared purpose, then cooperation would become natural instead of forced. And when the new threats arrive, they would face a truly united galaxy instead of a collection of separate empires that barely trust each other. How many species do you think could be affected by my abilities? Jake thought about this carefully. We do not know yet. During the Void War, your influence reached human minds across several star systems. But humans might be more receptive to psychic contact than other species. What if other species resist the connection? Then we will respect their choice and find other ways to work with them. The goal is not to force unity, but to offer the opportunity for deeper understanding. Elena went into her quarters to rest before the ceremony. She sat on the simple bed and tried to meditate the way she had always done on her homeworld. But now, instead of trying to focus inward, she let her consciousness reach outward to see what she could sense. The neutral station was full of different types of beings. She could feel their emotions like distant music playing in another room. Most of them were curious about the human captain and his strange choice of bride. Some were suspicious about what Jake might be planning. A few were worried about what this marriage might mean for galactic politics. But there was something else too. Deep beneath the surface thoughts, Elena sensed a longing that seemed to exist in every species she touched. It was a desire for connection, an understanding that had been buried under centuries of conflict and mistrust. She opened her eyes with sudden realization. The galaxy was already ready for what Jake was planning. Most beings had simply forgotten how to reach out to each other, across the barriers of species and culture. A few hours later, Elena stood in the station's main conference room, wearing a simple white dress that had been provided by the station staff. Jake wore his dress uniform with all the medals he had earned during his military career. The witnesses were officials from the Galactic Council who had been required to attend by law. The ceremony was conducted by a neutral AI that spoke in a voice designed to be pleasant to all known species. It asked the required questions and recorded their responses in the official legal database. Do you, Jake Morrison, accept Elena of the Solari people as your legal partner under the laws of the Galactic Council? I do. Do you, Elena of the Solari? People accept Jake Morrison as your legal partner under the laws of the Galactic Council. I do. Then, by the authority granted to me by the Council, you are now legally bonded. May this union bring peace and understanding between your peoples. As they signed the documents, Elena felt something change inside her mind. It was not the legal bond that made the difference, but her own decision to fully trust Jake and commit to their shared mission. For the first time since developing her abilities, she tried to create a deliberate, psychic connection with another person. Jake felt it immediately. A warm presence touched his thoughts, sharing confidence and determination, and hope for the future. He looked at Elena with surprise and saw her violet eyes glowing slightly with concentrated effort. "Did you feel that?" she whispered. "Yes, it was like having my own emotions reflected back to me, but stronger and clearer." The council officials did not notice anything unusual. They completed the legal paperwork and departed quickly. They clearly considered the whole affair to be a waste of time and resources. When Jake and Elena were alone in the conference room, she explained what had happened. "I tried to make a connection with you the same way I accidentally connected with the human fleet during the battle. But this time I did it on purpose. What did it feel like from your side?" "Like touching a mind that was completely open and honest. There was no fear or deception, just genuine concern for other people and determination to do the right thing." Jake nodded slowly. "If you can create that kind of connection with other individuals, then building a galactic alliance becomes much more possible. But I will need to learn how to control the intensity. What I just did was very mild compared to what happened during the Void War. That is why we are going to Earth. We have facilities there where you can practice safely without accidentally affecting large numbers of people." They spent the next 2 days traveling to Earth, while Elena experimented with her newfound ability to create deliberate psychic connections. She practiced reaching out to Jake's mind and sharing different types of emotions and memories. Each attempt helped her understand her powers better. "I think I know why my abilities developed the way they did," she told Jake as they approached the Sol system. "Silari meditation techniques are designed to create inner peace by blocking out external influences. But I was never able to block anything out. So instead of finding peace through isolation, you found it through connection." "Yes, and the more I connected with other minds, the stronger my abilities became. It was like building a muscle through exercise." Jake smiled as he looked at the blue and green planet growing larger in the view screen. "Wait until you meet the team I have assembled on Earth. Some of them have been working on psychic research for decades. They are going to be fascinated by what you can do, and hopefully they can help me learn to do it better. They are going to help you learn to change the galaxy." As their ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Elena felt her abilities responding to the billions of human minds below. But this time, instead of being overwhelmed by the connection, she felt welcomed. It was like coming home to a family she had never known she had. "I think this is going to work," she told Jake as they prepared to land. "I think it is going to work better than either of us imagined." Earth was nothing like Elena had expected. Her home world of Solara was quiet and peaceful, with small cities scattered among vast meditation gardens and forests. Earth was full of noise and movement, and millions of people rushing from place to place with urgent purpose. But what surprised her most was how welcome she felt. As their shuttle descended toward the landing pad at the military research facility, Elena could sense the minds of the humans below. There was curiosity about her, but no fear or suspicion. These people had been told about her abilities, and they were excited to meet her rather than worried about what she might do. "They are eager to learn from you," Jake explained as they walked through the facility. "Most of our psychic research has been theoretical because we had so few people with actual abilities to study." The research team was led by Dr. Karen Walsh, a woman in her 50s, who had spent her career studying the connection between emotion and brain function. With her was Lieutenant Commander Alex Reed, one of the few humans with natural empathic abilities, and Dr. Lisa Park, physicist who specialized in subspace communication theory. Princess Elena, Dr. Walsh said as they met in the main laboratory. "We have been following your case with great interest ever since Captain Morrison shared the data from the Void War. Would you be willing to demonstrate your abilities under controlled conditions?" Eleni looked around the lab at the various monitoring devices and computers. "What do you need me to do?" "Just try to make the same kind of psychic connection with Commander Reed that you made with Captain Morrison. We want to measure the energy patterns and see if we can understand how your abilities work." Elena nodded and sat in a chair facing Alex Reed. He was a young man with brown hair and kind eyes who smiled encouragingly at her. "Do not worry about hurting me," he said. "I have some psychic shielding, so I can protect myself if the connection becomes too intense." Elena closed her eyes and reached out.